Good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching this. I'm your host, Leafy Potato, and welcome to another NRTS 1v1 match. This time played between qalavan and SunnySide. qalavan, very strong player. SunnySide, very frequently played player, cast player. I don't know, apparently he's on like half the games of this channel. And here I was thinking that Mr. was the majority of those matches. Actually, Sunny is a pretty decent portion. Anyways, longtime viewers of this channel should be familiar with both players, as we have qalavan as the green commander here on Grasslands and SunnySide as the orange commander here on Grasslands, going for a very, very quick militia jeep. Actually insane gameplay. qalavan opting to get 7 farms before he queues his first jeep. Meanwhile, Sunny, with only 4 farms to his name, drops the depot, makes the jeep, and it has 4 militia in it. Does already have them out of the map, will destroy a farm here from qalavan. qalavan will try to run his militia around to save what little farms he can. Meanwhile, Sunny will just expand with 2 workers building 1 farm at once because he doesn't have the money for anything else. This is gameplay. This is gameplay. Yeah, if you're not familiar with Militia Jeep, it looks ridiculous when played at a decently high level, and we're going to see that here. Sunny abandoning his workers to their fate. See if he can get his Jeep back quick enough to deal with this harassment. He does, and he's looking to get some real damage stuck on qalavan. qalavan, not paying attention, almost loses a jeep full of militia. This is not great. Sunny losing all of his militia except for 1. Does manage to get 1 kill here from qalavan. Losing a jeep as well, though, is very, very big deal. Will just retreat his workers and his militia. qalavan, meanwhile, having an extra 3 produced back at home. Sunny, not having all too much money, actually does manage to queue 4 of them and an extra jeep, so he's ready to go. Of course, qalavan does have the military advantage. He has had a slight eco advantage for a little bit here, but Sunny is catching up pretty quickly. qalavan as well with a very early first house. I say very early in the context of having a vehicle depot and some jeeps already made. So both players have produced 2 jeeps so far. Very, very insane gameplay. It is quite difficult to start getting your housing going, especially when you have such a low eco, but at some point you don't have any space to make extra units, and so you're kind of just stuck. Sunny getting some decent picks on qalavan here. qalavan not being able to fill his housing means that it's not so much for population as much as it is for eco. Eco is definitely going to be relevant here, as we see Sunny darting around the map, trying to keep qalavan on as few farms as possible, and if you haven't noticed already, we are playing at double speed, which makes the jeeps look even funnier. But yes, double speed gameplay, because this match goes long. I don't know if you've seen how long this video is. You probably have. Most people check the video's length before they click on it. This is still going to be 30 minutes long, despite everything. And I bet you won't be able to tell who's going to win the game. At least not until, like, the last 5 minutes of this video. Okay, so qalavan and Sunny still skirmishing around, both of them doing well to unload their jeeps, but Sunny having a vast majority in militia, qalavan having his mechanized, so will be able to move his around much, much, much faster, and Sunny trying to chase the jeeps is sort of a futile effort here. Does manage to get 1, though. That's a pretty nasty mistake from qalavan. You lose 4 militia and the jeep. That's not something you want to be doing all too terribly often if you weren't aware. So Sunny, despite seemingly falling a little bit behind, and his opening being less than ideal, considering how low his economy was, getting that jeep pick is actually put him back in the game. Suddenly, Sunny has more jeeps on the map than qalavan does, and qalavan only has that full militia jeep to his name as far as army is concerned. Both players will poke away at each other's farms. qalavan not having the militia to fill the extra jeep that he just made, might just put a worker in it. Not a terrible idea. Sunny still managing to hold on to a couple more farms than qalavan. Not many, but it's enough to make a difference, and when you don't have that many houses on the map, and you're up 2 farms, and your opponent's got 4, you know, that's a pretty big deal. 16 eco usually isn't going to make or break the game, but it does mean that you can get houses that much more quickly, and it does mean that you can scale your economy faster. So all else being equal, Sunny will hit max housing before qalavan does, just due to having the extra farms. And we see already Sunny's managed to get himself 8 farms total. Not bad at all. qalavan does have an extra jeep full of militia, so we are ready for another skirmish, but Sunny has enough militia guarding his worker, so any potential threats to these new farms is mostly moot. qalavan will move in and manage to pick off yet another of Sunny's farms. Sunny Ooh, does not actually. Interesting. Sunny playing a decent game of keep away here. qalavan has to be extremely careful. Mass Militia Jeep versus Militia Jeep is one of the scariest fights. Does finally manage to pick off a farm. Meanwhile, Sunny, moving forward with the worker, does decide that now is the time for towers. We're going to limit the mobility here from qalavan. Make it so that he has to go around towards Blue's base first to get out with his jeeps, which isn't necessarily a problem right now, but for sure, it's annoying. It also cuts off the direct line of access to Sunny's base, so qalavan can no longer just charge at Sunny. Now, spending the money on towers here is kind of cashing out Sunny's advantage. What little advantage he might have had, and we see him unloading right before his jeep dies. Very, very clean execution so far. Cashing out the advantage that he had, right? The 16 extra eco will help you house faster if you want to, but now we see Sunny is starting to make towers at this front, and he will have enough towers that it will be a legitimate threat. Ooh, and qalavan losing another jeep full of militia is not ideal. Not ideal for sure. Now, at this point in the game, he can sort of afford it, at least more than he could afford it, but it's not the best feeling in the world, especially now that you're getting constricted at your own base. These towers are going to be a pain in the rear for qalavan to deal with, and so long as Sunny's got any units near them, they should be mostly unbreakable. In any case, yeah, we see qalavan sitting near his own command center right now, trying to build up the militia to add another jeep to his formation, but at this point, a jeep full of militia takes you way too long to make. Right, it takes 40 seconds to produce 4 militia, and then you also need to make a jeep. 40 seconds to add 1 jeep militia to your composition is, yeah, it takes a while. And we see Sunny making a hospital at the front line as well. Okay, this is giving qalavan more than enough time to get his eco back into some sort of shape that he can fight with. Right, now, granted, having healing is a massive benefit to whoever has it, compared to whoever doesn't. qalavan sort of needs to get a hospital himself. Now, if Sunny makes a timely transition here to choppers, qalavan will never own the map. Like, never, ever on the map. We see instead, Sunny is starting to take yet more farms. It seems like he does want to keep this constriction going, wrapping around the map, trying to keep qalavan unable to fight on land at all, just negating the militia jeep completely. And we see Sunny poking forward with his jeeps, gets another jeep full of militia. My goodness, that's 3 now this game. There's 12 militia and 3 jeeps going down for the price of, well, 3 units. Very, very dangerous. Now we see militia jeep as well chasing around a chopper on the mainland. Jeeps are actually just as fast as choppers, provided that you micro them well. Does not mean that they can chase down choppers necessarily. Choppers can fly over stuff, so there are just some paths choppers can take that are shorter than the paths that jeeps must take in order to catch up to them, but provided that you are paying attention to your units decently well, you are mostly able to confirm kills on greedy choppers. You do have to be careful. If your jeeps get shot by the choppers, they lose HP pretty quickly. They only have 60. Militia, for example, has 40 HP, so 1.5 militia worth of damage, and you're just down 4 militia, and it sucks. I digress. We see choppers as the main tool qalavan's using. That's pretty smart, since Sunny has not blockaded the water at all, which is, it's pretty difficult to do on grasslands in this sort of spawn, right? When you're across the map, you'd have to wrap some destroyers or something around in order to actually blockade the seas. Since Sunny can't really blockade the water at the current moment, choppers are a great tool because you can still get on the map and affect them. Otherwise, Sunny can just take every farm on this mainland, and that's a huge problem. We also see qalavan, having already got a transport copter, has already taken the big island, is taking the small island on his half of the map, which will give him a massive farm advantage for the time being. Sunny not having taken very many farms here, qalavan actually having more. It's such a weird game to see. Sunny, of course, having an insane choke, though, so qalavan not really able to contest on the mainland so far with anything other than choppers, and so if Sunny decides that he wants to start making some anti-air, escorting his workers around to take more farms, qalavan's going to be hard-pressed to stop that. That said, qalavan surely has the eco that he needs to contest this now, and should Sunny start slacking on his static defense and or start slacking on his military production, qalavan could maybe just start rolling back these towers here. As we see at the extremities of the towers, there's only like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 covering each tower. If you can fight into 3 towers repeatedly, you can roll up this entire static defense line. And we see Sunny trying to make missile tech. Will lose a farm. We have a couple of anti-air and some militia jeep. The militia are more valuable in this case in defending against choppers than the jeeps are. for sure. It's not that you're trying to chase down choppers at all at this point. We're still massing anti-air. We don't want to die. We have a turret and 2 towers at home. That is not nothing, for sure. Sunny's most valuable asset here really is this research facility. Just guarantee that you can't die to a dive from these choppers from qalavan. qalavan taking some shots from the anti-air. Not ideal, but not terrible. Manages to mitigate some of the damage. We see qalavan getting a vehicle depot himself on this back line. Curious to see that he doesn't have a hospital yet. Seeing that choppers are one of the main units you can get value out of a hospital with. And immediately missile turrets start producing for Sunny as soon as that missile tech was up. Did manage to defend that research facility for just long enough. Very well done from Sunny. Very well done. Not cracking under the pressure. He is kind of tucked into his own base right now. So his army is staying at home while these missiles get built. They don't really have the freedom to move around the map, and besides, qalavan can kind of just move in and out and camp on the water with his choppers right now, because he's got air supremacy. There's pretty much nothing that Sunny can do to guarantee these choppers die, other than threaten qalavan's base directly, which he can't currently. He needs an upgraded vehicle depot, which, speak of the devil, the depot is already done upgrading, and we are producing upped units. Probably, if I had to guess, this is going to be an immediate artillery. Though it would not hurt to have... Yeah, and it is an artillery. It would not hurt to have the heavy tank just in preparation for qalavan starting to make upped units himself, as he does have an upgraded vehicle depot himself. We see the choppers here from qalavan. We'll go and get yet another farm, just trying to pick away at Sunny's eco. At this point, a single farm of eco isn't massive, but it is still relevant. You don't want to be just losing farm after farm after farm. We see as well qalavan trying to get some damage done here, and choppers just shredding militia. Absolutely shredding. We do manage to get one chopper picked out of the sky with that militia, but qalavan more than got the better edge of that fight. And again, granted, I don't feel that militia are going to be too relevant in this game going forward. We see a cancel on an air pad. That's really, really nice for qalavan, but Sunny will eventually be able to get... a structure. Is making a second vehicle depot instead. Interesting. I don't know if that was a misclick or whatever. We see a light tank out from Sunny, deciding to have some units to combat some light heavy tanks. And we are going to push forward and see if we can't get an artillery shooting at one of these towers. Now, the anti-air covering the artillery, it can protect it from choppers, but it does make it way weaker to heavy tanks. We see qalavan going around the map, taking another 6 farms on one of the islands, and currently Sunny has no way to stop that. qalavan's eco is actually insane right now. It's going to be something close to 50% larger than Sunny's. Despite how bad this looks for qalavan, this is actually a great position. This is a wonderful position. And as well with the heavy tanks managing to splash down a couple of anti-air pretty low, Sunny only having the 1 hospital and a couple medics at the front. Will need to very quickly change the status quo, is managing to get another heavy tank to the front. qalavan here, you've got to be pretty happy. You're able to produce your upgraded vehicle depot units. You have choppers rolling back some static defense, so you're opening up the rest of the map to your workers, and so Sunny might have to start fighting on a bigger front. Sunny's main advantage really is still these towers that he's got around, but they're not going to be a massive advantage forever. Here we see workers for Sunny going back, and they're taking farms, making a missile turret at each of them, trying to make chopper harassment less of a problem. Now, with choppers this massed, you don't even have to micro them against a single missile turret. They will take a lot of damage in attempting to destroy farms, but they can heal it off. And now we start to see, this is the real siege, right? Whoever has more healing is more able to keep their units in the fight for longer, and so we are weighing our population now. We see the choppers here from qalavan still trying to roll up these towers and doing so slowly and efficiently. Very good to see. We see Hospital Medic from Sunny managing to hold the ground pretty well as he is poking away at some of qalavan's tanks, though he is taking quite a bit of damage himself. Does manage to splash qalavan's medics. Very nice to see. It's the ideal situation in almost any case. Fighting in range of qalavan's static defense, though, is sort of dangerous. If you get any tanks at low HP, they can and will just die. qalavan as well, trying to take the last of the 4 islands, trying to get a complete... it's not a trifecta, because that would only be 3 things, but a quadrifecta? That actually sounds way cooler than it should. In any case, trades going back and forth. qalavan taking good shots. Sunny as well, lacking the hospitals. Granted, Qualavan's hospitals are nowhere close to the front line right now, but honestly, I think Qual's been taking a pretty good fight, all things considered. It is easier to defend with heavy tanks than it is to attack with them, especially when you're having to attack in range of static defenses. You can get units picked off for basically free, and Qualavan starts pushing back with his own artillery. We are looking at an artillery push, ladies and gentlemen. Qualavan's artillery very low, does manage to save it though. Our medics also got slashed. Very dangerous indeed. We see a single chopper going out on the map now from Sunny, looking to distract Qualavan's choppers and destroy... Ooh, we actually have a second chopper. I don't know how I didn't see that, but ladies and gentlemen, we have farm harassment happening at the 31-minute mark of this game. Very, very interesting to see. Qualavan responding in kind with almost all of his choppers, trying to chase around one or two choppers. Sunny, for sure, distracting Qualavan in a way that is very difficult to emulate with any other unit. Qualavan's medics getting splashed to high hell. That is crazy to see. Crazy to see indeed. Tanks and artillery at very low HP for Qualavan, but Sunny not in a great position to take advantage of it. Needs to put his artillery in range of just one of these towers if at all possible. Qualavan, again with these broadsides from the heavy tanks, has not lost a single one yet, it does not seem. Very, very, very effective fighting from Qualavan, despite all of the damage he's been taking. Medics could afford to be a little further back from the front line so that splash damage is less of a threat. Sunny, we see again, harassing around with his choppers, managing to hit some upgraded farms on the other side of the map. He needed that damage. As we see, again, blow after blow, they trade a volley, they sit back at their hospital for a couple seconds, they trade another volley. This is really about how efficient can you make your splash damage at this point. How long do you have to heal in between volleys, and how long does your opponent have to heal? If they have to heal for longer than you do, then you can push forward, and that's ideal. And again, we are seeing push after push after push. Sunny getting a little greedy here. Loses an anti-air, but it seems like that was the extent of the losses. Very damaged units, though. As Sunny still has choppers around the map, is managing to pick off a full island worth of Qualavan's farms. Again, Sunny needed that damage. We are now on relatively equal economic footing. I say relatively. Qualavan still has way more farms than Sunny. But Sunny, with this insane position at the front, Qualavan having to deal a lot more damage to Sunny in order to justify his position. Wow, what a trade from both of these players. Again, you're not seeing very many losses, but you're seeing these units get down to like 1 HP. These medics working overtime. We are generating as much HP as we possibly can. Sunny finally decides that he needs to drop another hospital, and I don't disagree with him. Gets a decent enough trade, loses a tank though. Qualavan does not lose a tank, but the formation was pretty good. Here we see Qualavan fighting with his choppers over his army. Really good play. You see it from the best of the best. Sunny losing yet another tank. Not ideal. Qualavan will begin shelling away at Sunny's position with an artillery. Sunny, meanwhile, will strip away Qualavan's economy. Trying to get more flanks on the extremities of this position as Qualavan decides to push forward yet again with his artillery, getting very good damage done at this lower side, closer to the wall. We've already seen a tower and a missile turret gone from this position. And we see a hospital going down as well. Artillery, 2 tanks. My goodness, this is very, very strong damage here from Qualavan. Pretty much already has just removed this frontal position from Sunny. Sunny, getting fighters out on the map. Fighters are going to be a very useful tool here in order to keep Qualavan from cheesing any sort of ground fights by having just air supremacy. As we see more fighters coming out for Sunny, he will be more able to fight directly against these choppers. And when the choppers are trying to escort tanks, they're only moving at the speed of a tank. And so fighters' lower speed really isn't as relevant. Now the choppers can run away if they decide that they need to, but then you get into a very, very dangerous game where suddenly now your tanks aren't being covered by your choppers, which are supposed to be helping you not die to enemy air units. In any case, we see Sunny establishing a new front line a little bit further back from Qualavan's base, but for sure, still a pretty decent front line. We see one tank managing to walk its way to this front line, accidentally, of course, but honestly, it probably wouldn't have been a terrible idea to just have that thing shoot once or twice. You're going to be splashing a lot of units. You do have to be careful of the enemy choppers, of course. Sunny, having bought himself quite a bit of time, does have a decent air force now. We can start to fight an air battle, and Qualavan doesn't have any dedicated anti-air. The majority of his anti-air is choppers right now, and the other anti-air he's got on the map are these towers back at his own base. And we see Sunny trying to take advantage of that. Will poke forward with his fighters, will heal them back up with his medics. And we're just looking to get damage done over and over again. Maybe we can even overload qalavan's medics to the point where he starts losing choppers. I mean, just very, very high damage. Sunny taking good fights overall. We see the choppers as well managing to pick off a tank. Just because the medics are trying to heal qalavan's choppers. When the tanks aren't being healed actively by medics, they are a lot more frail than you would think. 150 HP isn't a lot when you're taking so much damage so quickly. We see another artillery coming out from qalavan. Seems like he lost his first one. First or second. I have not been keeping track, but certainly seems like he got artillery locked. I've noticed a lot of games for qalavan, he'll have one artillery on the map. Whenever he loses it, that's the first time that he queues the next artillery. Very rarely will he have two. As we do see, he does have two here on both sides of his flank. That will give him a little bit more pressure than you otherwise would have towards enemy static defenses. We see, though, a very aggressive poke here from Sunny. Sunny trying to reestablish his front line, does manage to get all the way towards it. qalavan, again, realizing that he doesn't really have staying power unless he's near his static defenses. Very desperately trying to build up static defenses as we speak. Chopper's managing to get 2 damaged tanks here. Very nice play from qalavan. Doesn't lose anything in return. Just insane gameplay. Now, Sunny, getting this front line of tanks here is useful. You really need these tanks in order to hold your ground, but you also are going to need artillery if you want your base to stay for any amount of time. We see just carnage from both sides, as a couple anti-air on the ground here from qalavan are managing to pick off some fighters. It is nice to see anti-air getting their more than their value in damage here, as we just see carnage again from both sides. We see qalavan trying to poke forward, getting another tank with his choppers, but he's losing a lot of choppers now. And Sunny being able to produce fighters. Fighters are only $20 more expensive than choppers. They are not that hard to replace compared to the other late game units that you've got. And right now, yeah, I think Sunny's won himself air superiority, at least when it comes to chopper fighter. Right, in pure choppers, qalavan still does have a couple more, but that's rapidly changing. qalavan will start having to rely on just pure anti-air in order to keep his tanks safe. Okay, so we are at the 44-minute mark of this match now, and ladies and gentlemen, if you are still watching this cast, I greatly appreciate it if you could comment your favorite type of waffle, if you have a favorite type of waffle. If you don't, then I don't know. Comment, I like cats or something. We see yet another poke from Sunny. Does manage to lose a fighter without getting any actual enemy losses. Sucks, but it is what it is. We see qalavan holding his ground. It is very hard for Sunny to be able to push forward with his towers. We see qalavan trying to shove Sunny back, taking a lot of damage in the process, but not damage he can't heal off. As both players now, the tank count is relatively low. We have quite a few choppers. Honestly, I am surprised that qalavan has any units on the field right now. That formation was honestly disgusting. Not in a cool way. We see Sunny losing tanks. I don't know how that's happening. qalavan massing more choppers probably is the culprit, as the choppers with their pretty high single target damage for their cost. Sunny pushing forward here. Absolutely insane. Manages not to lose a unit until he loses 5 workers at once, and that's not ideal. For sure, losing 5 workers at any point in the game is going to be difficult, especially if you're not constantly producing them out of your command center, which, by the way, producing workers full-time out of your command center, not a bad idea. We see yet more very costly pokes here from Sunny, but he keeps leaving qalavan's units at like 10 HP. That's enough for them to survive and get healed back to full by medics and hospitals. And so, here we see qalavan taking probably more damage than Sunny throughout this entire game, but Sunny just never managing to get the kills. Meanwhile, qalavan being very keen, using his choppers to snipe off tanks wherever he can, has done very well in establishing this front line. Of course, it doesn't hurt to have all 4 islands at once, even if for a short time. Now, qalavan's position has been reduced greatly over time, as we see yet another fight. qalavan with a pretty significant ground army here, and it's something that Sunny has to respect. Sunny losing a chopper, yeah, the anti-air in the back line certainly is going to hurt you pretty bad. I see 3 hospitals and mass medics from both players. Sunny still producing medics. He just wants to overheal. I don't hate the idea, but having an extra heavy tank or 2 probably wouldn't hurt. Not to mention having a couple extra fighters. For sure. Medics being two population, you do start having to weigh their value at some point. Having medics is a good idea. Having too many medics is a terrible idea. How many is too many? That's for you to decide, I suppose. We see yet more losses here from Sunny as he loses 3 tanks, a chopper, and an artillery. This is bad. This is very bad. Qalavan managing to not have to spend more money on his units. We are getting to the point where we might have to start using the 4-letter game-ending N-word. Nuke. The nuke is being prepared for, as we see a couple of static defenses going down in this corner here. There's not much strategic value to these other than preventing the opponent from damaging your nuke silo. It seems like Qalavan, with the money he saved from not having to replace his tanks, as we see yet 2 more tanks drop from Sunny. This is a level of attrition that you really can't be affording. I mean, sure, you're at the point in the game where you have the eco that you could technically replace this many units, but when your opponent isn't having to replace their units and you're having to replace yours, they're at some point just going to have the nuke trump card that they can shoot across the map, destroy your base, dive you with choppers, and that's just going to be that. There is not enough static defense on the map right now to prevent Qalavan from just running Sunny over if he manages to launch a nuke. So Sunny, you've got to start asking yourself, am I going to be able to destroy the silo as we see it going down? Ooh, Qalavan taking a terrible, terrible fight. Sunny finally finding the damage that he's needed this whole game. Manages to get 3 tanks, almost manages to get a 4th, but almost doesn't count. 3 tanks going down for Qalavan. Immediately he has to start replacing his front line, and he does not want to be doing that right now, honestly. You need the money for the nuke missile, and if you start having to replace too many units, then suddenly you won't be able to afford the $1,500 in addition to the nuke that's already building. Granted, he's put the majority of the down payment down on this nuke already, and we won't need that many tanks to reestablish a front line that can hold. The static defense is going to be doing wonders here. As we see Sunny shelling away with artillery. The artillery really is the strongest unit here. You need the artillery to push forward. Having 2 or 3 artillery in this position and just playing defense otherwise, I think is not a bad idea. As we see a second artillery coming here from Sunny, he needs to break through the static defense in a very short amount of time. As we see, he's building up his forces, but you're going to have to start pushing. Now, desperation is not the answer for sure. That nuke takes about 3.5 minutes for 2 workers to build, and then also it takes 5 minutes for the nuke missile itself to build afterwards. Qalavan, though, again, very solid front line here. It is going to be difficult for Sunny to break through. Qalavan basically has to sack his entire army for this nuke missile silo to go down in any sort of reasonable time. We see Sunny taking a decent fight, but he has to pull back to his towers, or else exactly that happens. Another artillery and another tank go down. How much can Sunny take in terms of punishment? This is very expensive for Sunny. We see mostly choppers now making up the air force for Sunny as well, as Qalavan still relying on choppers for the majority of his damage. Nuke missile silo is done. Nuke missile will be queued up sometime soon, and Sunny's got about 5 minutes to end this. Now, if you're Sunny, you could alternatively respond by trying to make enough static defense to survive a first strike, but then also you have to be banking money in order to rebuild your housing in a timely fashion so that the next nuke missile doesn't just wipe you out again. And so, you basically need the money to make a nuke yourself in order to survive a nuke strike, which is difficult to do when you're losing more units and you have less eco. Here we go, Sunny taking another fight, getting good damage done. Good damage is what he needs. Qalavan getting a little bit greedy here. Still has not queued up his missile, probably because of the expense that he's incurred trying to hold this front line together. Will lose another tank. This is good for Sunny. This is good for Sunny. Every tank that Qalavan has to replace is another $170 that can't go towards anything else. We do see the nuke missile queued up, so by the time this game hits the 1 hour mark, Sunny's got to be in danger zone for real. We see choppers managing to get an extra tank after the first tank dropped in that engagement. Sunny now taking insane trades. Qalavan just trying to buy as much time as he possibly can. He's only got 2 tanks to his name in this front line right now, though. That's not a lot. Now, granted, we have a chopper war now, and in a chopper war, Qalavan's got way, way more than Sunny does right now. We are not seeing any more fighter production. Honestly, I can't tell you why. Fighters right now would be insane. Though I suppose that's easy to say from a backseat gamer perspective. Here we go, Sunny pushing forward yet again. He needs the static defense gone, and he really wants it gone. We see choppers managing to zone out enemy choppers. Finally manages to save a tank from a chopper dive. Very, very nicely done from Sunny. Again, I think you need to have something more concrete to answer these enemy choppers, as Qalavan is still rallying tanks around at the front. He now has a front line of 4 tanks. That's not a lot, but it's not nothing. 4 tanks can absolutely stall your game. And that's all Qalavan needs right now, honestly. If he has any amount of choppers after he gets this first nuke done, he just nukes a path open to the enemy command center and walks his choppers over. He's got enough defense around his command center right now that he can easily dive after a nuke goes off. And here we see a 5-tank front line. Suddenly, qalavan's got a fighting force together. Of course, the critical mass is 6 tanks, but 5 is going to work, and as I say that, the 6th joins the party. Sunny, struggling deeply to get any sort of damage done, pokes forward with his choppers, loses the majority of them, and then pokes forward with the rest of his army, loses his artillery, and this is not good. This is not good at all. Sunny, not having any sort of air superiority, goes for one desperate final push. qalavan's got more tanks than him. Now, Sunny's getting very good damage done on qalavan's tanks. qalavan now has 1 to his name, and it was just produced. That said, qalavan's got the air control again. Sunny's got medics, but he doesn't have much to do with them. He's trying to produce something out of the back line, and here we have the nuke missile firing. Sunny goes for a desperate dive, tries to kill qalavan, and it's just not going to work. We see all of the housing go away. We have a command center at about 20% HP, and qalavan's going to do a leisurely stroll around a couple of missile turrets, and by around I mean straight through because he's got enough choppers, and immediately just dives it, and there we are, ladies and gentlemen, at 60 minutes and 56 seconds. qalavan takes a W on Grasslands. If you enjoy 1v1 nukes as much as you enjoy Belgian waffles or your other favorite kind of waffle, but Belgian waffles is the correct answer, by the way, like and subscribe. I hear that helps. Anyways, I hope you have a wonderful day, and remember to stay classy.